The camera is running, but the screen is entirely black. The lens cap is still on. Over the sound of heavy rain, a man begins screaming. He is shouting that he is being eaten alive. A woman's voice begs him to play dead. Then the heavy sound of tearing fabric and breaking bones fills the microphone. The tape captures exactly 6 minutes of pure, inescapable horror. Who pressed record? Katmai National Park in Alaska is a completely untamed wilderness. It is a massive, sprawling sanctuary for the largest apex predators in North America. Brown bears here can weigh over 1,000 pounds. They are highly aggressive, incredibly fast, and driven entirely by instinct. Park rangers treat the landscape exactly like an active war zone. Visitors are strictly ordered to carry heavy firearms or bear spray at all times. You do not approach the animals. You do not sleep in the thick brush. But for 13 years, Timothy Treadwell completely ignored every single rule. Timothy believed he had a profound spiritual connection with the grizzly. He spent his summers living entirely unarmed among them. He filmed hundreds of hours of himself singing to the massive predators. Sometimes he would reach out and physically touch their snouts. To the outside world, he looked like a magical wildlife whisperer. He appeared on national television, claiming the bears were his family. But seasoned Alaskan locals saw something completely different. They saw a deeply delusional man playing Russian roulette with a loaded gun. It was only a matter of time before the chamber clicked on a live round. By the fall of 2003, Timothy's luck was finally running out. He had brought his girlfriend, Amy Huguenard, to the reserve for the season. Amy was absolutely terrified of the bears. Her personal journals were filled with deep, lingering anxiety about the massive animals walking past their thin nylon tent. By late September, they were scheduled to fly out of the park before the harsh winter arrived. They packed their gear and waited at the local airport. But Timothy got into a minor argument with an airline worker over a ticket. In a sudden fit of anger, he made a fatal decision. He canceled their flight home. He ordered a float plane to take them right back into the deep wilderness. It was the first week of October. This is the most dangerous time of year to be in the Alaskan bush. The mild, well-fed bears that Timothy usually had already migrated into the mountains to hibernate. The only animals left in the valley were the desperate. These were older, highly aggressive bears hunting for the final calories before the heavy snow fell. They were starving, and they were extremely hostile. Timothy and Amy set up their camp in a dense thicket of alder-brush. Park rangers explicitly warn against camping in thick brush. It completely destroys your line of sight. If a predator approaches, you will not see it until it is standing right on top of you. On the afternoon of October 5th, a heavy rainstorm rolled into the valley. The sound of the driving rain completely masked the noise of the surrounding forest. Inside the tent, Timothy and Amy were simply preparing for the evening. Just outside the thin nylon fabric, an old 1,000-pound grizzly silently approached the camp. Biologists later identified it as Bear 141. It was a massive 28-year-old male with broken teeth and a starving, sunken frame. It did not know Timothy. It did not care about the years he had spent protecting the park. It only saw a desperate source of calories. The bear attacked violently and without any warning. We know exactly how the attack unfolded because of a terrifying piece of physical evidence. In the absolute panic of the first few seconds, either Timothy or Amy reached for the video camera. They hit the record button, but they didn't have time to remove the plastic lens cap. The camera recorded 6 minutes of completely blank video, but the microphone was highly sensitive. It captured the exact, agonizing audio of a human being dismantled by an apex predator. The audio begins with Timothy screaming that he is being attacked. His voice is completely shredded with panic. He is shouting at Amy to get out of the tent and run away, but Amy doesn't run. She grabs a heavy metal frying pan from the camp stove. The microphone picks up the frantic sound of her unzipping the tent. She steps out into the freezing rain and starts screaming at the bear to get off him. You can hear the heavy metallic clank of the bear's skull hitting the frying pan. She is desperately trying to fight off a 1,000-pound monster with a piece of camping cookware. For a brief, impossible second, it actually worked. The audio captures the bear stepping back. Timothy yells that it's walking away, but the relief is utterly shattered a moment later. The bear circles back into the brush, charges again. This time, it completely ignores the frying pan. It grabs Timothy by the head and drags him aggressively into the dense forest. The audio captures Timothy screaming his final desperate word. He begs Amy to hit the bear harder. Then the human voice is entirely replaced by the wet, heavy sounds of feeding. Amy is left alone in the rain. She has no weapon. She has no radio. Her boyfriend has just been dragged into the dark brush. The audio captures her terrified, high-pitched screams echoing through the valley. And then the heavy footsteps turned back toward the camp. The bear wasn't done. The 6-minute recording violently snaps to an end. The magnetic tape simply ran out of space. The camera shut off, leaving the rest of the nightmare completely the imagination. The valley fell silent. The next morning, a local floatplane pilot named Willie Fulton flew into the park. He was scheduled to pick up Timothy and Amy for their delayed trip home. He landed his plane on the quiet lake and waited. Usually, Timothy would be standing on the shore, aggressively waving his arms to greet the plane. This time, the shore was completely. The only thing moving near the water was it was aggressively guarding a mound of dirt. Fulton felt a sudden, sickening drop in his stomach. He immediately radioed the park rangers and waited inside the cockpit. When heavily armed rangers arrived, they formed a tight perimeter and pushed to the dense brush. The camp was completely destroyed. The nylon tent was shredded to shoes and torn clothing were violently scattered across them. As the rangers moved through the grass, Bear 141 suddenly charged out of the dark. The animal was highly aggressive, defending its fresh kill. The rangers didn't hesitate. They raised their high-powered rifles and fired a massive volley of bullets. They dropped the bear instantly. Then they found the bodies, or what was left of them. Timothy's remains were dragged deep into the brush, heavily scavenged. Amy's body was found partially buried under a pile of mud and twigs next to the shredded tent. The park rangers systematically processed horrifics. As they dug through the ruined gear, one of the investigators found the video camera resting in the dirt. They noticed the red light was off, but a tape was loaded inside. Cases like this usually leave behind nothing but fragmented bones. And if confronting the dark reality of nature is why you watch, subscribe to Evidence Zero, because what investigators heard on that tape haunted them forever. The police took the camera back to the station. Detectives crowded into a small, quiet room to review the footage. They expected to see a blurry animal attack. Instead, they stared at a black screen and listened to 6 minutes of pure auditory hell. Hardened Alaskan state troopers were physically sickened. Men who had seen decades of brutal wilderness accidents had to leave. The sheer panic, the horrific crunch of bone, and Amy's final desperate screams mentally broke the investigator. The audio was so profoundly disturbing that the authorities made an unprecedented decision. They completely refused to release the tape to the public. It was sealed away as highly sensitive evidence, completely hidden from the media. Years later, legendary documentary filmmaker Werner Herzog traveled to Alaska. He was making a film about Timothy's bizarre life and sudden death. He was granted exclusive access to the victim's personal archives. Among the belongings was a private copy of the tape. It was kept entirely secret by Timothy's close friend, Jewel Polovac. Herzog did not play the audio for his documentary audience. Instead, he filmed himself listening to it on a pair of headphones. The camera stays entirely focused on Herzog's face as the 6 minutes play out. You watch a man's soul drain completely from his eyes. Herzog is a director known for his obsession with the absolute cruelty of nature. But as he listens to the tape, he is entirely paralyzed. He takes the headphones off, physically shaking. He looks directly at Jewel and gives her a desperate, terrifying warning. He tells her to never listen to the tape. He begs her to completely destroy it.
He says it will be the white elephant in her room for the rest of her life. Jewel never destroyed the tape, but she never listened to it either. Today, the audio remains locked inside a secure bank vault. It is the ultimate piece of lost media, hidden completely from the morbid curiosity of the internet. It serves as a permanent, chilling reminder of a boundary that should never be crossed. Timothy Treadwell spent 13 years trying to prove that apex predators could be tamed with love. He believed the bears understood him. He believed he was one of them. The microphone recorded the exact moment he realized the truth. The tape is locked away. The bodies are gone. But the wild remains exactly what it always was.